so today we're talking about volume and area. Not really talking too much about area today. We're going to focus on volume, and more specifically, how do we use multiplication to calculate volume? So let's jump right in. Here I have a solid figure, and it's split into cubes. And the way that I figured this out is we have the length, the width, and the height. The length being the bottom half right here, 1, 2, 3, and the width being the side, 1, 2, right, 2 centimeters. Each of these are a centimeter cube, and the height being 1, 2, 3, 4 going up, right? So here's a cube, here's a cube, here's a cube, and here's a cube. So here I have my length, width, and height. And what I want to start to do is I want you to start to visualize what this looks like as a layer, right? As different layers. When we think of layers, we can look at it in different ways. Like, how would we cut it? How would we dissect this? And so in this case, I want to look at one that is our top layer, right? This top set of cubes right here, right? This middle set of cubes right here. And you know what? Let's do that a different color. This middle set right here. Okay, and then I'll go back to my original color. We have another set right here, and then we have one last set of cubes on the very bottom. So we can look at it as 4 different layers, right? Do you see that? So when I do this, what I want to do is I just want to show you, if we split this up, again in layers, what we're really doing is we have, if we count this 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, we have 6 in each layer. And so what I've done is I've created just that. So if we had 6 in each layer, I want to figure out what it is that we're multiplying. Well, in this case, we're multiplying the length and the width. So I have created a table, and what I want to demonstrate is we're going to record our what is happening and see if we can find a pattern. Okay, so in this case we did the 3 times 2. So cubes in each layer, there are 6, which is a breakdown of 3 times 2, correct? And the number of layers, if we count each of these, remember we split those apart with the colors. My colors are probably going to be off, but I'm going to throw them up again. Yeah, so if I take this right here, this layer, kind of looks like that, right? From before. So if we count each of our layers, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 layers, right? So we have number of layers right here is 4. And then what is the volume? And to figure out the volume, you multiply all of your given numbers. And in this case, 3 times 2 is 6. Times 4 layers is 24, and because it's in centimeters, we have to put centimeters cubed. Okay, but we can also look at it a different way. We can look at it a slightly different way, and why don't we go ahead and do that? So what if we instead split it, coming back to this, what if instead we split it long ways, right? So instead, what if we took this layer and just went along, I'll put it underneath, right, if we just went underneath, we have a layer here, and then 1 here. So instead, now we have 3 layers instead of 4. We have 3 layers instead of 4, and in each of these layers, we have, count them, 2, 4, 6, 8. We have 8 instead. So we have 3 layers, and it's going to be 8. And what 2 numbers are going to make 8? But 4 and 2. So you can start to see that there's a visual pattern here. And what I've done is I've created that right here. So again, if we get rid of all those blocks, we can look at them as 3 sets of 8. And how are we determining that? With these 2 numbers, right? 4 times 2, those are connected. Okay, so the last way that we can look at it as is if we get rid of this and bring back our box, we could also look as this whole front area being a part of it, right? And there's be 3 in the back too, right? So there's a whole front row, so there'd be 12 on this side, and that would be if we split it like right along here. We kind of just split it down the middle here, and there would be 12 on each side. And so I've gone ahead and done that for you, created that right here. So that would be another way that we can look at it. And if we included that in our next layers, what are we multiplying but 4 and 3? Oops. 4 and 3, so 4 times 3. And then we are left with 2 sets of layers. So if you started to notice the pattern, and if we finish these problems, they're all going to give us 24 centimeters cubed because of the commutative property. If you remember what the commutative property says, it doesn't matter what order you multiply similar processes with, right? So in this case, multiplication, if we move the multiplication, commutative property of multiplication says we can multiply 3 times 4, or we can multiply 4 times 3. So they're all going to give us 23 centimeters cubed, and it would be the same as if we just took our original problem and counted all the cubes. But visually, it's a lot easier to just take these 3 numbers and multiply. Okay, so we can look at it as different ways, but if you look at what is the pattern, well, the pattern is that in each of these, when we've multiplied the cube in each layer, right, 6, 8, 12, we always get that leftover number of the number of layers. So depending on how we look at it, you can dissect these and split these up and start to see that there's different ways to look at volume. But the very simple fact is, no matter how you do it, volume is always going to be length times width times height in any order. It does not matter if you flip it around and change the order by which you multiply. So there are lots of different possibilities to do that, but they're all going to give you volume down the line. So hopefully that kind of gives you a better understanding of what we're looking for. And when you're given a problem with volume, you can start to see the pattern that happens with length, width, and height, and how they're interchangeable, and the different ways that we can look at the layers. We can look at, a layer on top, or we can look at a layer down the sides, or we can even look at going the other way, left to right, right? So there are plenty of different ways that we can look at volume, but remember, they will all involve the length, the width, and the height.